You are now listening to the Serious Growth Podcast with your host, Leo Costa Jr.
More farming, I think.
Yeah.
And more hunting and stuff like that. But South Carolina is a little bit more extreme than North Carolina when it comes to certain things.
What about the weather? You guys get pretty extreme weather?
We got good weather here. South Carolina, their weather is nicer, but we have pretty good weather. Last year, the winter, it didn't really get below 45, 50 degrees, for most of the winter.
That's not bad.
In the summertime, we have our 100-degree days, a lot of 90-degree days, very few 100-degree days, but it's pretty nice. It's tolerable. In October, like right now, it was 82 degrees yesterday and the day before.
Yeah.
So
same way.
Nice.
Yeah, it's about the same way here. How about humidity? Is there a lot of humidity in North Carolina?
Yeah, a lot of humidity.
Yeah.
A lot. Yeah, it's pretty bad that way.
Are the bugs pretty big over there? Like huge?
Yeah, we've had some issues with some bugs. Different years, different bugs.
Yeah.
But it's country. There's a lot of farms, so there's a lot of bugs where the farms are. You drive down, you might go 20 miles to the next town, and you're going through farmland for the whole 20 miles, and you get nothing but this is what you hear on your windshield. Like someone spraying you with a BB gun.
I understand. I'm in the same area. I'm in the central part of California, and we're red here, and so we're not all blue. But in this part of the country, actually, we're known for our agriculture, and we provide a lot of agriculture for a lot of the world out of this valley here.
Oh,
So
nice.
the way you're describing North Carolina it sounds very similar to where I live. Now, of course, when you go into LA, have you ever been to California?
I've been to the very north tip. We ran back in 2007 or 8. We ran a powerlifting meet in Nevada at Reno. So we kind of went up by Lake Tahoe. We had just a little bit of California. That's it.
Yeah.
I've never been there.
So this state is kind of unique. I think we have northern, central, and southern California, and basically they're their own weather. It's just very different in those areas that you go in. Us being in the valley gets really hot compared to like a LA or San Francisco. San Francisco is actually the cooler of the three areas, so it's pretty diverse that way. It's unfortunate. It's just a little bit too goofy, but that's the way it is. It's going to change. Hey, listen, welcome to Serious Growth Podcast.
Thank you.
I see here that you've been a coach for quite some time, 30 years, huh?
Yeah, actually, wrestling, I've done 32 years. Football, I got in just after wrestling. But
Yeah.
I just retired from coaching wrestling, and I took over as the head football coach 2 years ago. So
Okay.
I'm just focusing on football and, going back-to-back seasons, football then wrestling was really tough on you.
Yeah, I can imagine that. And I see, let's see, wrestling and powerlifting. The thing that I want to ask you is, you've been around this weight training and weightlifting game just about as long as I have. I've been in it about almost 39 years. And when I came up through the ranks, the weightlifting or the powerlifting and sports-specific training and all that kind of stuff was not very well accepted, actually, back then. It was pretty foreign to a lot of coaches. And, I mean, even the high schools, it was in colleges, you had a situation to where you had now more specialty coaching at the college level. But that was like the four-year colleges. Even at the junior college, it was more rudimentary. It was more just kind of your basic 5 sets of 5 type of thing, which, as you know, that is not the best way to train athletes, because you make them stronger but slower if you don't have that explosive, component to that.
Right.
But that's kind of the way it was. And high school was even worse. I mean, even to the point, Paul, where I played a specialty position. I was a quarterback in high school, and the quarterbacks and receivers and the running backs, the coaches say, get the hell away from the weight room. We don't want you to be bulky, and you're not going to be flexible, which is it was misinformation. But on the other hand, I guess it was good because they didn't make us stronger and slower, I guess, in that sense. Was it like that? Was it like that where you were?
Yeah, I wish I grew up with a strength coach like myself. We didn't have a strength coach. We didn't even have a weight room.
Right.
We had a universal machine, okay, that was in a classroom. That's all we had was a universal machine. And, we I remember, so my dad had bought weights from our next door neighbor, and me and my brother started lifting weights in the basement. And we bought that book. Was it Tony Atlas? Was it Joe Atlas or Tony Atlas?
It was Atlas. I forget now. Now that you said that, I can't think which one it was.
I think I still have the Chuck Atlas. Anyways, I think he was up from California. He was a bodybuilder.
Yeah.
I think back from the 1950s. I bought that little book from him on the back of a magazine.
Yeah.
Started looking at exercises, and that's how I started.
I think it was Charlie Atlas.
Might have been, yeah.
Maybe. But I know what you're talking about. Though that ad ran forever for the longest time, right? Yeah.
Yeah, for years. It might still be running. Who knows?
Yeah.
You know? And so that's how I got started. But when I was, I graduated in 84. And I started high school in 81, and there was no weight room. They had bought a universal, and they had a universal in an old classroom, and that's all they had. And they had a curl bar on the side with the little 1-inch hole the 1-inch hole weights on it for a curl bar. That's all we had. So and the coaches knew nothing about weightlifting. They never lifted a weight in their life. Heck, we were stronger than them, and we weren't even trained well. But what I didn't get there, I went home and made up for it at home and worked. I wanted to be a professional football player. I didn't realize I was going to stop growing at 5'7". So, but I worked my tail off to be that,
Yeah.
And it just wasn't in the cards.
Right.
But, now I see these kids now, like what I have to offer them. And I'm not one that goes out and tells the kids like, I've done this and I've done that. And these are I don't say nothing to my kids. Every once in a while, a kid will say, oh my God, coach, I Googled you I Googled you, and oh my God, I saw you lifting 500 plus pounds here, and I saw you doing this, and I'm like, yeah. And they're like, oh, I saw you in this magazine, I saw you in that magazine. I'm like, yeah. But they're like, why didn't you tell us that? I'm just not that kind of person, I'm not that. I'm just not that kind. I don't have a lot of stuff on YouTube or Facebook. I don't do that. I just, You
do it for the love of the game.
Yeah, but I'm a student of the game.
Yeah.
And I'm always learning. And what I was doing 5 years ago is different. What I'm doing today is different than 2 years ago, which is different from 5 years ago. That was different from 10 years ago, which is different from 15 years ago. Like, I thought I was doing a great job back in the early 90s as a strength coach, and I was all happy with myself and thought I was doing a great job because what I was doing then was 100% better than I got for training in high school,
Yeah.
And when I played college football, it was the same deal. The weight room was basically a closet, a utility closet that they put a bench in there, and that was it, a bench and a squat rack.
Yeah.
And they knew nothing about weightlifting either. We'd go in there and they would have us do 2 sets of push to failure, as many reps as you can on the bench, and then on the squat. That was all we did for weightlifting.
Yeah.
But my kids now, like I tell my kids now, like, kids, let me tell you something. This routine that I have for you is absolutely phenomenal, and I'll put it against any strength coach in the country, and I guarantee we will get results just as good as results they get, if not better.
Yeah.
And then I'm always changing. Like, I'm always watching videos and learning stuff, and I may see something that I like. I may see you do something and like, oh my God, I really like that. So just the other day I learned, almost every day I learned something new. And I try to implement certain things. Now there's been things that I've tried to implement that have had the adverse effect. I'll give you an example. One time I was watching a video and the guy was talking about the deficit deadlifts. I use my kids as guinea pigs. So I'm like, okay, guys, this is what we're going to do. I'm going to put you on a box. We're going to put the weights down below. So I had all these boxes made. So I've got 8 platforms in my weight room at the school that I coach at, and then I'm a strength coach. So I sit there, I got 8 boxes. I put the kids on, and this is what we're going to do. Well, it had the adverse effect. It actually made the kids weaker. So
really?
That's something I took out. But I'm always trying to learn. Always trying to learn.
All right, let's take a quick break so I can tell you about our product.
Do you want a bone-crushing grip? Good, because you're gonna get one with the amazing new TRS gripper. It's a progressive grip builder with longer handles and a special ergonomic design that's like a dozen hand grippers in one. Start off easy and work your way up to quickly build your grip strength from wet noodle to pulverizing. The package includes a video from the world-famous strength coach, Dr. Russ Horine, the man who worked with Leo Costa to help bring you big beyond belief in the Bulgarian Power Burst. Dr. Horine shows you a simple and easy to follow workout plan that takes just minutes a day right from in front of your TV set if you want. So click on the link below and let's get started building you a stronger, firmer, bone-crushing grip.
I think that the important thing that you're telling me, because I'm also a student of the game, is that it's important that you keep learning. The minute you stop doing that for whatever reason, some people get really close-minded after a while because they think they know it all. But you have to be willing to be open about that. And that's not that easy sometimes, because when you get it, I'll speak for myself. Sometimes when you really believe in something, it's hard to come off that. It takes I think for me, it takes a certain amount of discipline and being humble enough to say, look, there could be something better out there. I just have to be willing to accept that and at least give it a shot. And one of the things that's helped me is that I don't think it's like Albert Einstein said, the best and true knowledge is through experience. And my dad used to say the same thing, but in a different way. It's hard to replace firsthand experience. So as I was coming through as a personal trainer, one of the things I wanted to do was always make sure that I tried everything myself, because I wanted to see what that felt like, what it looked like, because that way I could pass that information from firsthand and then just see how that worked for you or that person because it's not going to work for everybody, as we both know, But yeah, you're right, man. I mean, and actually the weight room back then, knowing what I know now, and I'm sure you'll agree with this, with the people that were running it or not running it, it actually was pretty dangerous, because the coaches really didn't know. It was just something they just, like you said, I mean, they're just opening up a place to go ahead and go lift without much supervision. Not to mention that they didn't have a strategy for you as far as how to really make the weight training transcend onto the field and make you a better athlete, right?
Correct. Exactly. That is so true. Like I got kids. I've had a kid come in the other day, one of my football players, his dad's teaching him sumo deadlifts. And I'm like, no, hell no. Like, if you're going to be a powerlifter only, sumo deadlifts, no problem. I'll teach you how to do it. But you're my football player, and football comes first. I'm building athletes.
Yeah.
So we're going to be doing traditional deadlifts so you can work on explosiveness and be a better athlete first. The powerlift is something separate.
Yeah.
So he's
so
like,
let me ask you this. What made you, I'm assuming it's because you're an athlete, but what made you get into powerlifting? Was it just to make yourself a better athlete or what?
No. Okay. So I realized I trained my tail off to be a professional football player, and like I said, I never grew. So I was like, well, I'm not going to go anywhere at 5'7", 165, but I did go on to college, played a couple of years of college football. And then after that, I got out of college football, transferred to colleges. And for the next couple of years till I graduated, I kind of stopped lifting. I kind of went into a funk, and I'll never forget this. So the reason I got back into lifting was this girl. I saw this girl that I used to be in love with, this beautiful, beautiful girl, and she's like, "Oh my God, Paul Bossi." I'm like, "Yeah." She's like, "Oh wow, you look so different. You're like a regular person now." And I'm like, "What?" She's like, "I remember back in high school, you say your name, and people would puff up their chests and go, 'Wow, yeah, that's Paul Bossi.' And now you're just a regular guy."
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, I was devastated. So I went back in the gym and just started working out, just because, all that hard work I did. And if you stop, you lose it all.
Yeah.
I always tell everybody, working out is not a fair proposition. You work out all this time and you make this much gain, but you take that much time off and you lose it all.
Right.
And so I went into the gym, and I joined this gym called Nautilus Plus back up in Peabody, Mass. And I was doing triceps, one thing I did learn from my football coach back in high school, who was also my biology teacher, if you want big arms, work on your triceps. Yeah. Triceps is 2/3 of your arm, so work your triceps. So that was on a Saturday night. She said that to me. On Monday, I joined that gym on a Monday, and I went to the gym Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and I did literally 25 sets of triceps. I did 5 or 6 different exercises, and I pushed them to fit. I walked out of there, and I was so pumped up, right? I didn't have much to pump because I atrophied so much.
Yeah.
But the next 3 days, oh my God, I was in the worst pain of my life. So that's what got me started back into lifting.
Yeah.
And then I used to work at this place called Automania. We used to sell speed parts for cars to make cars faster. And one of the guys I worked with come in with a trophy. And I'm like, "Where'd you get that?" He's like, "Oh, I won a bench press competition." I'm like, "Say what? They've got bench press competitions?" He's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Cut it out." I go, "How much did you bench?" He's like, "I benched," I think he said 265. I'm like, "What?
Yeah.
You did 265 and you won?"
Yeah.
Hell, I could do 330.
Yeah.
I'm like, seriously? I'm like, "You got to let me know the next time you have one." So he told me, he's like, well, they got this magazine that has a whole list in the back of the magazine, which was Powerlifting USA back in the day. And he says, there's a whole list of them in there, and you can go to, all these ones. I'm like, let me know the next one you go to. I want to go. So that was back 1989, I think it was. And boom, that was the hook. I went to my first competition with him. I took a first place. It wasn't very many people there. I took a first place, and I was hooked.
Yeah.
But here's the cool thing about it. The cool thing about it was I was lifting at first because I wanted to win some trophies. You're a young guy. You want some trophies. You want to feel good about yourself, build your self-esteem a little bit. Since you're not going to be a professional football player, your whole life fell apart. So now, you want to build your self-esteem a little bit. And I'm thinking like, well, I'm in the PE field. I'm going to school to be a PE teacher, football coach. It wouldn't be bad to have a couple. So the lifting and going to the powerlifting meets and winning the awards at first was my motivation to keep working out. Because if it wasn't for the powerlifting meets, I don't know if I would have stopped. Like so many other people go to the gym for a short period and then they stop.
Right.
You've got to have a passion. You got to have a goal. And, I tell my kids all the time, I want you to write down 3 goals because it's only a dream until you write it down.
Right.
And so my goal was I had went to a competition and I had lost. And I had lost to this guy. He was from Canada, didn't speak a lick of English. He was up in Vermont. He cheated. He came down and he wasn't in my weight class. I was in the 181 weight class. He was sitting down and he's pushing his hand against the thing to lighten up the weight on the scale. I'm watching him, and all of a sudden he's in my weight class, and I'm like, "Well, that stinks." I'm like, "What a jerk!" And I'm not going to sit there and rat the guy out. So I'm like, "Okay, fine, whatever. We're going to go head to head." And he beat me by, gosh, I don't know, maybe 100 pounds.
Yeah.
But I said to myself right there, I says, "You know what? Screw this shit." I says, "I hope that language is not too bad here
It's
for
totally fine. It's actually cake.
Okay. So I got pissed, and I was like, you know what? This is it. I go, I am going to work my tail off. I go, and I'm going to get to the point where nobody ever beats me. Nobody ever beats me. I'm going to walk into a competition, and I'm never going to lose again. Okay, never going to lose again. Yeah, I'm going to get to that point. Now I may lose getting there, but I want to be to the point where I just don't lose ever again. I want to walk into a place and know that I'm going to win, and that's kind of where I got to. At one point I went about 17, 18, 19 years and hadn't lost a competition. The only competition I've ever lost, actually, to be honest with you, wasn't a drug-free competition. They were like Bench America was an open competition where they took the top 5 lifters around the country. Didn't matter what federation it was in, and they took the top 5 drug-free or on drugs. And then the same thing with when I went to the 2014, I think it might have been. I went to the Battle King, Bench of the King, King of the Bench or something. King of the Bench in Texas, and that's an open competition, which open is anything goes.
Right.
And actually, I tied for first, being drug free. I tied for first, but I lost on body weight.
Yeah.
And I hit 510 at 48 years old. I hit 510-pound bench press with a pause. So I was happy with that.
How much did you weigh?
That meet there was pretty heavy. I was like 240. I was 242, I think, at that weight.
So you doubled your weight, right?
Yeah, I doubled my weight. I think the most I've ever done over my weight was like 2.35, 2.4 over my body weight.
Yeah. And there's 3 lifts in a powerlifting meet, right? It's the bench press, it's squat and deadlift.
Yeah, in a full power meet, yeah. Now that particular meet I just told you about was a bench only.
Okay.
Yeah. I haven't squatted and deadlift probably 20 years. I've got a bad lower back, and when I start to do it, it bothers me. So I just kind of stick to the curl now in the bench press, and I'll do some leg exercises, leg extensions and stuff at the gym just to kind of keep my legs strong and stuff. Yeah. But when I start doing deadlifts and stuff, my back goes bad.
Yeah.
But that's what got me back into the lifting though. Like if it wasn't for that my buddy walking into work with a trophy, because I would have never known about the powerlifting meets. He walked in there with that trophy. I said, I want to win a trophy. I went to my first meet, and the rest of it's history. I haven't stopped since.
And the same thing happened to me because for me it was, I've been an athlete all my life. I played football and all that good stuff. And after I got out of college, I had an injury and I just couldn't go anymore. But, the consequence of that was I went back to the family dairy and the farm, working the old stable farm that we had forever. But I got in like the worst shape of my life. I mean, it's really horrifying once you've been an athlete. When you get out of shape, it's like really, oh my God, And I got to that point, And I thought, I got to do something. And long story short, I ended up competing in a bodybuilding competition. I got into a gym, and the guy that was he was the instructor there. He suggested that I compete. Well, after I competed that one time, just like what you said, I knew at that time, after that competition, that my life was going to change forever. And it did, because I went from working on a dairy. I was supposed to be the next generation to take that thing over. In my culture, Portuguese, when you have a dairy, you just keep passing it on down to the kids. And I didn't have that blood in me, man. It wasn't there. It was just a job that I didn't look forward to,
Okay.
And I think a lot of people are in circumstances like that, and it's just the way it is sometimes, But once I did that, I knew that was going to change me forever. I didn't know it would be me getting into the business as a personal trainer, because in my town at that time, Paul, there was no one doing personal training. It was a small town, maybe 60,000 people at that time. Hell, they thought I was an aerobics instructor when I was out there doing this. I actually had to learn how to promote myself and teach people about my business, because no one was doing it. You could go to LA and San Francisco, and there were trainers there, but nothing like it is now. There's a trainer on every corner and on every social media platform, so it was much different back then. So I know exactly what you're talking about, and I'm still going in. I'm like this trained idiot, I call myself, because I still get up at 3:00 in the morning, because I always trained early. I still do that. I get up at 3 in the morning every morning. I go down. I have one studio left. It's a smaller personal training studio, 3,000 feet, and I'm going there. I'm 65 years old, man. I started at 27, and they're gonna have to drag me out feet first, because I'm not leaving. It's a part of who I am every day. It sounds like you're the same way.
Yeah. My whole life is around. I own a gym, and then I'm the president of 100% RAW Powerlifting Federation, and then I teach at a school as a football coach. But I also have a powerlifting team at the school.
Yeah.
I got a powerlifting team at my gym. So everything I do is revolved around. So I go. I wake up. If I don't hit the gym the first thing in the morning, I go straight to work. Teach all day. I teach weight training classes all day. Then I got practice, and then. So I'm training my kids during the day. Then I go to the gym at night and train my people at night and train myself at the same time. And it just goes and goes and goes.
It's who you are. It's what you do. And I can relate to that, because it's my whole life, and I'm, my wife, sometimes she says, well, how come you why do you keep going in? I said, because it makes me happy. And if I'm happy, why should I stop doing that? It doesn't make any sense to me. That's where for me, I feel sorry for people, or feel bad for people that don't have the kind of situation that I have, because I don't need anything. I'm full. My life is good, because I'm doing exactly what I want to do, which is what I do, train. And now, how I make myself relevant, which is kind of what you do. I basically can teach people now from my knowledge, from all the years of being in it and learning. And, so I can stay relative that way. That's why I started the podcast. It was to just keep talking to people, because everybody has their own way of doing things. And with that being said, I wanted to ask you I want to talk about RAW powerlifting, but before that, I wanted to ask you, when you're training your athletes, is it just straight, give us a sense of what that looks like? Because as I learned, because I became a strength and conditioning specialist, because I work with a lot of NFL and a lot of the pros back then. And how entailed is your program? Is it more than just powerlifting? Tell us a little bit about that. That's your strategy.
Okay, so when I'm at the gym, at my Fitness Warehouse gym, it's strictly powerlifting there. It's not a powerlifting gym. It's a regular. We're small. We have a small town. We only have 35,000 people. No. We have a Planet Fitness in town. We have a YMCA in town. So I have to have a little bit of everything to survive. Right. What some people like to call the meatheads, the powerlifters, they don't support you. Like, they're here today, they do their things, and then they're gone tomorrow. It might be a year or two. It's the everyday people that come in that keeps the business going. And we've been in business for 20 years now. So at that gym, I do powerlifting there, but I don't have it as a powerlifting gym where you got chalk flying all over the place and this and that. But I have my chains, and I have my bumper plates, and I got all my stuff and all my competition bars and stuff there. At the school, it's totally different. I've got my platform set up. I don't teach powerlifting. And at the beginning of our conversation today, you talk about stereotyping. When people back in the old days, they would have stereotypes. So when I first came down here, that stereotype was hard because everybody thought, weightlifting is bad for the athletes who's got to tighten them up,
Yeah.
And then I come down with this reputation as a power lifter, and they're like, we don't want our kids near him. He's a power lifter. He's going to get the kids all, this, that, and the other. Like, I am building athletes, okay? Yeah. And I try to explain to people, if you're going to sit there and train kids, are you going to do squats as an athlete, as a trainer? Are they going to do squats? Yeah. You think most trainers will do squats? Yep. You think most trainers are going to do bench press? Yep. How about power cleans? Yep. Deadlifts? Oh, maybe not. Okay. Just so you know, okay, so the deadlift is going to complement your power clean. Your power clean, force times distance divided by speed, is going to give you your power, okay? Which, if you want to complement your power clean and get up to a 275, 300-pound power clean, you need to increase your deadlift. Well, the bench, the squat, and the deadlift are power lifts. Mm-hmm. Does that mean you're doing powerlifting? No, it's how you implement your program. So if I would tell people, don't sit there and talk negative about my program. Come and watch my program. Watch how I work with my kids, and then you can evaluate. Yeah. But don't sit there and be ignorant because you don't know anything about lifting, right. And now you're ignorant and you're stereotyping, and that's wrong.
Yeah.
But so I'm building athletes. My number one focus is building athletes. So let's say on Mondays is squats, and we'll do a whole leg routine on Monday. Tuesdays is chest, shoulders, and triceps. We don't have. I got 5 days to work with these kids. Wednesdays, I do this thing called Boss Fit, and I'll get into the Boss Fit in a second. Thursday, we'll hit our deadlifts, and we'll knock out some biceps on Thursday and hit our back. And then on Friday, we'll do our power cleans, and then we'll do some board presses and some front squats, okay? But everything I do, I try to compound my exercises, except for the first exercise, which is the core exercise. So on Monday when we do squats, we're doing just squat. Then right after squat, we'll combo step-ups and lunges. So we'll do a step-up lunge combination. And then their break time, they got a medicine ball, and they're doing Mason twists, mm-hmm. Okay? And then, and I'll get them in groups of 3, so one's going, one's spot, and one's doing this. And that way we're just rolling around. And then the next exercise might be leg extensions, and then hitting leg extensions. And then once they're done with leg extensions, I may have them do like a shrug, working on their shoulders. Mm-hmm. And then the next exercise will be box jumps. We'll be working on explosiveness with box jumps. And I got a few different types of box. I do mine a whole lot different than a lot of other people. Like I'm training football players, so I make sure my kids come out of a 3-point stance.
Yeah. Oh, interesting. That's very sports specific, by the way.
Exactly. You know, so I'm all about full range of motion. So I'll sit there and I'll demonstrate to the kid, and I'll get into an athletic position. And when you're in that athletic position, I'm like, okay, now I'm in a football position, middle linebacker. I'm in a soccer position. I'm in a wrestling position, basketball, baseball, softball, tennis. This is a volleyball. This is an athletic position. This is why we're building full range. So I explain a lot to my kids. Yeah. Kids today are so different. I'm on my 28th year of teaching, and they are so different now than they were 28 years ago. Now, before, you need to do this, let's go, and they do it. Yeah. Now it's like, if I don't explain to them why I'm pushing them to failure, explain, like in wrestling practice, guys, we need to build up our anaerobic capacity. Not our aerobic capacity right now. We need the anaerobic. And the only way you build anaerobic is by pushing to failure, where you're totally spent. Now you got to push that little extra to get the anaerobic. I have to explain this to them so they don't think I'm just being mean. Kids are so different. So different.
I agree.
Yeah. So that's kind of like we do there. And then like on Tuesday, we'll do our bench press. So that's the core exercise. Everybody, we do a circuit. We got 2 or 3 guys spot, 1 guy's lifting. But once we're done with the core, then I break them up, and then the 2 exercises. So like the next 2, they'll do close. We'll knock out. We don't have a lot of time, so we have to be smarter, work smarter, not harder. So we'll do like a close grip bench press, incline, close grip incline. So we're hitting incline and we're hitting triceps at the same time. Yeah. And then we compound it with push-ups right to the floor. So as soon as you rack that weight, you're right on the floor and you knock out 10 push-ups. Yeah. Which you'd be surprised how many kids can't do 10 push-ups after they do that because they're fatiguing themselves, And then we'll knock out French curls, and I have certain variations the way I do things. It's always my stuff's just a little bit different than what most people teach. I have different angles and different things I do, and then I always do my superset with it. So when I do my French curls, I do it in an angle because straight up, there's no pressure. You put your arms back like this, and now you're shaking, holding it. So my kids are working hard, so we'll do that. Then I superset that with a close grip bench. Then we do an isometric contraction hold, and I make them hold it for 10 seconds.
Yeah.
And, and then once they're done with that, they go straight over to tricep machine and burn out 15 reps of the tricep machine. So they're constantly moving. And then, we'll do, I call it change of direction box jumps, where you're facing straight and the box is to your left, and you're on your knees. So you jump up to your toes and then jump and go 90 degrees turn. I'm, again, trying to build the athletes and do what I have to do to build athletes.
Well, and the stuff that you're talking about is sport specific, because as you know, when you're on the field, you're running at angles. It's not just straight, all the time. In fact, it's mostly crisscross and changing direction. So the stuff that you're doing, I can relate to you because it's very sport specific. Now, as far as repetitions are concerned, you've kind of given me a little bit of an indication. I was going to ask you, what's your rep scheme, generally speaking?
Okay, so I try to do 9-week cycles, and I do basically like a periodization. I have a periodization workout. Yeah. So at the beginning of the semester, kids are coming from being out all summer, not lifting weights, except for the football players. But the kids that are non-football players come in, they've not been working out. So we'll do 8 to 11 reps for the first 2 to 3 weeks to let their bodies coordinate and condition the muscles. Yeah. I can't stand when a kid, like I had an idiot, one of my favorite kids, but he 570-pound deadlift at 160 body weight, comes in after the summer, after not lifting all summer long, comes in and tries to go for 500 pounds and hurts his back. Yeah. I'm like, no, you can't do that. Like today, you're not going over 225. Yeah. 225, and you're going to do sets of 10. So anyways, so I have a 9-week cycle that I do, and we start off with 8 to 11 for the first 3 weeks, and then we'll go 6 to 8 for 2 weeks. Then we'll do sets of 5 for a week or two, 3 to 5 for a week, sets of 3 for a week, and then we max out. I got you. So it's over a 9-week period. So kind of like progressive overload, periodization, progressive overload, and then I'm always changing the variables up on them. And that's that's the first 9 weeks. And then I come into the second 9 weeks, and then we start using chains. So I start doing chains with the kids. And I got a couple other workouts I do with the Deuces Wild workout. And so I'm always, after I get to that first phase of the year, when I break them in, then I start going to more specific things with chains and with reps. And then I have this one routine where we do, I got this from Bill Gillespie. Do you know who Bill? He used to be the strength coach for Seattle Seahawks. No. And then, so he's one of our lifters in 100% RAW Powerlifting Federation. Bill Gillespie. He's one of the top trainers in the world. I mean, there ain't many people better than him. Matter of fact, he just turned 60 years old last year, and with a bench shirt. Now, I don't care bench shirt or not. He had a bench shirt on, but he still did a 1,000-pound bench.
Holy crap!
At 60 years old, the guy's a beast. He was the strength coach for the Seahawks for, I think, about 10 years. Yeah. And then he went to Liberty University. And at Liberty's close to where one of my chairmen is in Virginia that runs meets, John Shiflett. So Bill had competed in his meet. So I got to meet Bill, and Bill gave me this routine. And it's a really awesome routine. Yeah. So, I do it with the squats and bench. I call it Deuces Wild. I don't know what Bill calls it, but I call it Deuces Wild. And what it is you get 20 sets of 2. So most people do 4 sets of 10, right? Right. He breaks it up to 20 sets of 2. And I'm using 70% max, 70% of their max out weight to do this set. Now, if I have 2 people, they have to perform it in 30 seconds. Yeah. So if there's 2 people in the group, you're done with this exercise in 10 minutes. Yeah. If there's 3 people in the group, then I give you 45 seconds. So if it's me and you, I blow the whistle. Everything's on my whistle in class. So I blow the whistle. I do my 2 reps. You do your 2. Yeah. We probably did that in probably 12 seconds, 15 seconds, right? So we're sitting around like this, you and I. Okay, that's no big deal. All of a sudden, whistle blows. I do my 2, you do your 2. Well, now we're sitting around. We did it in about 18 seconds. Okay. Whistle blows. I do my 2, you do your 2. Well, now we did that in 22 seconds. Yeah, it's catching up. All of a sudden, you get to the point. You get to about the 10th set, and we're doing everything we can to get to that. All of a sudden, I'm like, come on, hurry up, come on, let's go. Because as soon as you're racking away, it's my turn. I gotta go. Right. And then you hit like the 15th set, and it's weird. It's really weird because all of a sudden now your adrenaline's flowing and you're kicking ass. Like you're really doing good now. Like now it's starting to come back the other way, and I can't figure that out. But when you're done with that routine, you're done. That's one of the routines I do. I do another routine that I call it econs. which is the eccentric contractions. So every exercise, every core exercise that day, we're doing squats, and I make 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, up, 5, 4, and we're doing 10 reps.
Yeah.
So we do that for a couple weeks with the econs, and then then we do our chains as well. So like I said, I'm always changing things up with the kids to shock their system to make it a little different. And my kids hit some numbers. Like I had one kid 650-pound deadlift. I had another kid 610-pound deadlift at 198 body weight. He didn't even go into one of my competitions. I had one of my ball players who should have been in the NFL, really awesome ball player, Marquise Grizzle. He did a 558-pound deadlift like nothing. Came right up like he had 600 plus of him. He only weighed 158 pounds.
Holy crap.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I've had some good things going, but
I think that to answer your question, in my opinion, when you got to set 15 on those 20 of 2, here's what I think happened, because it's happened to me before with bodybuilding, because it's an extreme behavior sport, a little bit like powerlifting is. I think that what happens is that your fight or flight kicks in. All of a sudden it's like, I got to survive this or it's going to kill me type thing. And you know who Tom Platz is, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I trained with Platz, and it was like, when we trained together, it was like, I'd never been scared before, Paul, but to train with Tom Platz, he was a psycho, and he still is. It was in the eyes, but I tell you what, to train with him was, you better hang on for dear life. And at first you think you're going to die, and I'm not exaggerating. And then all of a sudden it's like, wait a minute. All of a sudden you don't cave in, and you have all this, I don't know where it came from, but I think it's that fight or flight nervous system that kicks in and gets you through that last bit that you need, before you really collapse. I think that's what's going on.
Well, in this routine, if you're not ready when I blow that whistle, if you're not going, that set didn't count. So
you're one of those guys. You're going to punish me. Attaboy. I like that.
You got to make up.
Let me ask you this. When I was training athletes, I learned this. My oldest son played in the Major League Baseball. He played for the Kansas City Royals. And one of the things I got to do and know over time, and it was actually through his journey, I got to know a lot of coaches. Because I'd sit in the dugouts when these coaches were coming to look at my kid, right? Watch him play. And they told me that at each one of the positions, and this applies in every sport, but at this point it was baseball. They said there is at each position, a priority list of what that athlete needs to do. Like, for example, a center fielder back in those days, it's changed now because the athletes are bigger and stronger now. But he said the number one priority for a center fielder is to be able to run balls down in the gaps, left field or right field, the gaps. And it wasn't that, just to give you the example, it wasn't that they wanted them to hit a ton. They'd rather them be able to run down balls, in the gaps, compared to someone who played left and right field. Those are power athletes. And the number one priority there was for that athlete to hit home runs, basically power hitters. So the reason why I'm asking you that is when you're training your athletes, now obviously you've got athletes, let's just say football, you got linemen. Are you training your linemen differently than you're training your running backs or your wide receivers, or are they just basically doing the same type of routine and getting the results from that? Let's take a quick pause to tell you about something you are definitely going to want.
Do you want a bone-crushing grip? Good, because you're going to get one with the amazing new TRS gripper. It's a progressive grip builder with longer handles and a special ergonomic design that's like a dozen hand grippers in one. Start off easy and work your way up to quickly build your grip strength from wet noodle to pulverizing. The package includes a video from the world-famous strength coach, Dr. Russ Horine, the man who worked with Leo Costa to help bring you big beyond belief in the Bulgarian power burst. Dr. Horine shows you a simple and easy to follow workout plan that takes just minutes a day right from in front of your TV set if you want. So click on the link below and let's get started building you a stronger, firmer, bone-crushing grip.
Good question. Very good question. Everybody does the same routine when I'm in the class, but I walk over to certain kids and I changed their reps. So I got my linemen. I want my athletes doing a few more reps. So we might be doing 6 to 8 reps or 10 reps maybe. And I walk over to my lineman. I'll be like, because I have 8 platforms. It goes from the strongest to the lightest. And typically these kids over here should be doing more weight. The linemen should be doing more weight. They're bigger. I'm like, all right, listen guys, I want sets of 3 today. I want 3 to 5. Try to give me 5. So I'll change their reps a little bit. And this, like, I noticed, like, we have kids that can't do certain box jumps, so I have different size box jumps to accommodate them because I want them to get something out of it. And then eventually, they'll get to it. I had one kid couldn't even squat, could not even squat. I had to put him on the glute ham machine. He had to hold the glute ham machine bars so I could train him to squat and get down and come up. So I'll accommodate each kid individually to make them all do it. As far as the routine goes, the routine pretty much stays the same for everybody, ideally. And then I'll have certain people that I change things for. Like, so I'll have a few kids I might say, okay, you guys are here. You guys can do these reps here because you guys are matured enough to do it. You guys have worked beyond this point here, and you're going to get more out of doing reps of 3 right now, or 3 to 5. These guys here need to stick with their 8s or their 6s or whatever it is. And I may take kids off this particular machine. Like, if he can't do it, if there's no sense trying to make him do it. So I'll modify things for certain kids. And as I modify it to help him. Now, that one kid that could not even squat his body weight, not even his body weight. He weighed 335 pounds, could not even do his body weight. But I told him, if you listen to me and you follow what I tell you to do, I'm telling you by the end of the semester, you're going to be over here with these big guys on platform 1 or 2. Sure enough, he made it all the way to platform 2. He beat all those guys out because he started from ground zero. I mean, he was worse than ground zero. He couldn't even squat his body weight, but he had to hold himself up. And until he could do 20 reps, I think that 3 sets of 20 reps by holding on to it. Then I made him do 3 sets of 20 without weight to make me down. Then we used the bar. But all of a sudden, once he got to that point where they started using just the bar, he went through the roof and made it. So, yeah, I try to accommodate each kid. I don't tell the kids that because I don't want them to, I don't like this exercise. So, my back hurts today because I don't want to do this. This hurts. They'll play you in a second. These kids will play you in a second, Of
course. Yeah. Interesting. Okay. So let's talk about and I see here that you've won in all kinds of divisions, but I'm interested to know more about this RAW Powerlifting. What does that exactly mean?
Okay, so RAW Powerlifting is something we started in 1999. We started it when the AAU decided that we were all part of AAU at the time. And what happened was they decided that they weren't going to do drug testing anymore. I guess what happened was they had a bodybuilder that had failed the drug test back around 98 or 99, or might have been 97, 98. And by the time the decision came out, it was like 99. So they said no more drug testing. They had lost the suit. So the way that they had done their drug testing, they had lost. The bodybuilder had appealed it and went to court and had won the case. So therefore, AAU said, okay, fine, we're not doing drug testing, period. So we broke away, we left, and we started 100% RAW.
Okay.
And now, at that time, there wasn't a federation that didn't have lifting without gear. Like, you want to lift, you had to put a bench shirt on. You had to wear a squat suit. Like, you didn't have to, but you weren't going to compete against the guys with, unless you had it. So, equal. I remember my first competition, I did like a 325-pound bench press, but the guy that beat me did like 340, but he had a bench shirt on.
Yeah, it makes a difference.
I'm like, what is that?
Yeah.
What is that? They're like, oh, worse. So there was a guy there selling them. And the guy's like, at the end of the competition, the guy's like, here, try this on. He put it on me. Next thing you know, here I am doing like 340. Like, boom. I'm like, oh, I'll buy one of those. Without sign. Yeah. So we started this thing called 100% RAW, and it wasn't. People think that RAW means drug free. Well, we are drug free, but that's not what the RAW means. What RAW means is that you don't have spent shirts, no squat suits, no knee wraps.
Yeah.
At that time, we didn't even have wrist wraps or knee wraps, knee sleeves. Now, in about 2010 or 11, we voted in to have wrist wraps because we felt like if we're going to be competitive with others, well, what happened was we were the only RAW federation in the world. We were the only ones. Everybody made fun of us. Everybody joked us. You lift RAW because you guys are weak and you can't compete against anybody else. Yeah. Which the funny part of that is most of those guys that were talking trash, I could beat them. And I was heck, most of them I could beat RAW, and they could have their bench shirts on. I could still beat them.
Yeah.
they want to talk their trash. We just mind our own business. I tell my people, back then they didn't have social media, but they had forums, and I says, guys, do not talk negative about anybody else. I don't care. I don't ever want to hear you talk about guys that are on steroids. I don't want to talk about other organizations. If you talk negative, I'm going to pull you off. I'm going to pull the comments down. Don't talk negative about anybody else. If you don't have anything good to say, don't say anything at all. But I do not want negative talk, because then you get the keyboard warriors coming out and then they start attacking you. I always want to take the high road, and I'm not going to say nothing negative about anybody. We're all brothers in the sport. Yeah. And just because one guy chooses to lift, with RAW, and one guy wants to lift with a shirt, and one guy decides he wants to take steroids, that's fine. That's your life. You do what you want to do. There's a place for everybody. Yeah. If you want to do, no matter how you want to compete, there's a place for you. Just don't try to come into, a RAW event and try to be all juiced up and try to win a trophy or a medal.
Right.
Now that's not fair, Yeah.
But
so RAW, we started off like that, totally RAW. We allowed a belt. We did allow a belt, but we also had, at that time, a lot of people lifted without a belt.
Yeah.
As time went on, other organizations started having RAW divisions. So they still had their equipped division, then they had RAW divisions, and then they're saying, okay, we're just going to offer RAW. Well, RAW exploded in 2006 or 7, and then USAPL started it. Then every other organization followed suit, because they figured, like, wow, the trend was going this way.
Yeah.
And now, honestly, I don't even hear or see or anything about assisted lifting. Like, it's like a dead thing. Like, there might be a couple people out there, but everything now is RAW. All organizations across the board. And we had to change our rules a little bit, because if we didn't, we're going to be left behind.
Yeah.
So we had to keep up with the Joneses say. So we allow knee sleeves now, but we don't allow the extreme knee sleeves that have the crosses in them.
Yeah.
For extra, because that gives you extra weight on your list.
It's a performance enhancer.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we don't allow, like, our wrist wraps have to be 24 inches in their natural state. You can't come in with a 36-inch wrist wrap.
Right.
And then we check you say, like, now they got those singlets that, I don't know if you ever seen them, but they got these singlets with the straps about this wide. It doesn't even look like, it almost looks like a bench shirt. So what they're doing is they're trying to get these singlets to pass, and now they're called compression singlets. Okay. So it's a compression thing. So it's like, we had to outlaw that too, because they're trying to make the bench shirt into a singlet.
Right. Right.
And they're trying to, I don't know. So, but that's what 100%.
They're always trying to create a competitive edge, however they can, right?
Yes, exactly.
And here, I want to ask you this though, like, because I competed early on, all natural. I was sort of known for that, because I wrote these books, Big Beyond Belief and all that, and it was for the natural athlete. But the truth of the matter is, at least from my perspective, is that even though you were natural, at least in the bodybuilding sport, you had guys coming in that were juiced up, and it created an unlevel playing field, which is kind of frustrating. So someone like myself who's very competitive, realistically, no matter what you do, you can't compete. Very seldom can you compete with an athlete that's juiced up. I mean, you can, but you know what I'm talking about. In the real world, they have an advantage. That's why they do that. So it was frustrating. It's like, shit, I'm just going to go ahead and I'm just going to get juiced up too and compete that level, because otherwise I got to go down this road, and that's not even a fair deal. So how do you guys get around that? I mean, the ideal situation would be that you have a division for people that are doing RAW and they're not juicing at all, and it's an even playing field. But how does that work out in powerlifting when you got guys that are maybe cheating in the natural group?
Okay, so we have run into that. People have asked me, well, why don't you start a division called RAW Power, and then anything goes? No. These are my morals, values, and ethics. This is what I'm sticking to. We're going to be 100% RAW. We're going to drug test. We're going to drug test 10% minimum, but we'll drug test as many as we have to. If we need to drug test, 25, 30, 40% at that meet, we will. You may not always catch everybody, but if there's a 70-year-old man who's taking steroids, he's in the 220-pound weight class, and he's only benching 115 pounds, God bless him. God bless him. I mean, I'm not worried about if you want to ruin your life, and you want to do that's your part, but you're not affecting anybody. We've been really good about catching people. They know we drug test, and I mean, it's right out there. We're drug tested, and at the end of the meet, we drug test. I mean, we call people up, you're getting tested, boom, boom, boom. And our rules in our meeting at the beginning, we goes over the rules meeting at the beginning of the competition. We are going to drug test. if you leave this competition early, you need to let us know. Because if you leave and you're selected for drug testing, then you got a lifetime ban.
Oh yeah.
Lifetime ban.
Because you're
And we've
ditching
had that
something
happen.
probably. Yeah, you're probably trying to get away from that.
Yeah, exactly. So, I had to leave early. They want to go out there and they want us to go lift in a competition, be it all, suave and all, and try to get all these people going hooting and hollering for them, and they walk around, they're big and bad. And then all of a sudden they come back and they leave early.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I had to go. We had an emergency at home. Just let me know, because if you let me know, I could drug test you real quick. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If you're selected for drug testing.
Yeah.
But we don't go after, like, a lot of these federations, they do random drug testing.
Yeah.
That's a bunch of crap. Okay.
Why is that?
Because random. Okay. Leo, I know you're clean, right?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, I want my numbers to grow. I'm going to test you. I'm going to test my friend Jeremy. I'm going to test this guy here. People that I know are clean.
Yeah.
Because now nobody feels the drug test. All these guys that came and supported me are coming, and they're going to keep coming back to my meets because I'm not testing them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
No.
I get it now.
Heck, I get tested, Leo, at my own meets. I'm the president of the federation.
Yeah.
We had the World Championships in Las Vegas, and my chairman, my drug testing guy comes out to me, Paul, we got to test you. I'm like, come on, let's go. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's like, that's just the way it is. Like, my chairman gets tested. We all get tested. Like, it's all about the morals, values, and ethics, and these guys, we test. We do a really good job of testing. Again, I'm not going to say we're perfect. Nothing's perfect. I'm sure there's been some guys that have gotten through, but we've deterred a lot of people. And because we test, and because there's other organizations that don't test, they're starting to learn, like, you know what? I'm not going to lift 100% wrong. I'm going to lift over here instead. Yeah. So our numbers are not as big as some of these other meets. Some of these meets might have, more lifters than we have, but we have good morals, values, and ethics. We have a lot of older lifters. A lot of our lifters are 40 and above. Yeah. We have a lot of lifters 50s and 60s and 70s, because they want good, clean, drug-free lifting. Yeah. And that's what we have. We have a very good family atmosphere. There's not, I'm sure you've been around for a long time, so you've seen some of these meets that were open meets, meaning anything goes, and there's, lots of big cussing and this, that, and the other. Yeah. Ours, being the way we are, it's totally different. It's a family atmosphere. Yeah. People come out, they got their children there, their wives there, grandparents there. Yeah, yeah. It's different feel. It's different. It's a different feeling. Yeah.
I know when I was competing in the sport, some of these guys would get I took a look at that and I thought, this is not the way it should be. Guys would come back, if they thought they should have won, they'd come backstage and they throw their trophies and they're pissed off, they got screwed. It's like, that kind of defeats the whole purpose. And I took a 13-year layoff and I came back, and I'm going to tell you something, Paul. I actually enjoyed the comeback after a 13-year layoff way more, because I was a different age. I saw it from a different perspective. I really enjoyed it in a much better way than I did when I was actually competing. It was just I was in a different mindset. And like you said, and it's very different. I've interviewed a lot of the guys, the great ones in the 60s and 70s, like Tony Pearson and some of these guys that competed back then. It was more, there was more camaraderie back then in the bodybuilding scene. Now it's just very, it's really isolated as far as that goes. People used to share information, how they trained. It was more open like that. It was a real different, a lot different now in the industry. Although I can't tell you because I haven't competed in quite a while now, but it was kind of like that too. So, but I enjoyed it a lot more at an older age.
Yeah, my bodybuilding, I have two different bodybuilding experiences I want to tell you about. One of them, I was the chairman for North Carolina for the NASF, North American Sports Federation. Bob Chris, rest his soul, he passed away recently, but he was a big promoter. He's actually in the Hall of Fame, York Bodybuilding Hall of Fame, and he promoted bodybuilding, powerlifting, strongman. I don't know about strongman, but in sports in general. So he asked me to be the North Carolina chairman, and I had a miserable time. For 10 years, I run bodybuilding meets for 10 years, and they don't want to send their entry forms in. You've got to buy awards. You want to buy nice awards. So you want people to send their stuff in so you know how many awards you're going to need. Because when you're buying a $65 award, you don't want to get stuck with 20 of them. Right. So, so I would literally have bodybuilders show up to the meet, show up to the competition. Registration would start at 12 o'clock, from 12 to 5, and then at 6, the show would start at 6. And they would show up at 12 o'clock in their sweats and stuff and just sit there watching who's showing up before they decided if they're going to enter or not.
Right.
And they keep asking and seeing who's here. And then we've had times where people, they said, no, I'm not going to do it today.
Right. No, I get you.
Are you kidding me? Like, just get on stage and do what you got to do.
Right.
It drove me nuts. I couldn't. I had to stop running them. After 10 years, I'm like, Bob, I had enough. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But I can't take this. These guys need to get their forms in on time. So, it was just a miserable effect. But here's a funny story for you. Here's what made me stop bodybuilding. My first bodybuilding competition that I did was 1984, and I entered the Mr. Massachusetts contest. It was sponsored by Polaris Gym. It was a small competition, and I took 4th place out of 5 people. Okay, and I'm sitting there like, I'm pissed. And I said, you know what? Screw this. I'm never doing this again. I was bigger than those guys, which I was bigger than them.
Yeah.
And but they want the cut, and I'm like, to me at that time as an 18-year-old kid, I'm like, it's harder to build muscle than it is to be skinny.
Right.
Like there's skinny kids in my high school that could come up here and win because they're just naturally skinny and cut up.
Yeah.
Like that, they don't even lift weights.
Right.
So how are you going to sit there and promote a sport that you're supposed to lift weights in, but you don't even lift the weight?
Right.
No sense to me. So later on, a few years later, I had met some guys that from Malden area. They're into the bodybuilding scene, and they were telling me about certain bodybuilders. Well, guess who took 1st and 2nd? You're never going to believe this, but 1st place in the competition was Paul DeMeo.
Wow. I remember.
Second place in the competition was Mike Manazzaro.
Oh boy, Mike died.
Paul did too, right?
Oh, he did. I think he did. I think both of them did. That's right.
I think they both did. Yeah.
Yeah.
Paul was in jail for a while.
Is that right?
Yeah, I think he did beat up his wife or something. I don't know. I don't want to get into all that, but
yeah.
I actually feel bad I even said that because I don't even know what he did, but
yeah.
Stuff I had read. But those guys were 1st and 2nd place.
Wow.
Okay, and we were all 18 years old. We all grew up in the same area.
Yeah.
We didn't know each other, and then later on, I kind of find out who they guys were, and I was like, oh my god! I was showing somebody the pictures.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, that's so and so. I'm like,
yeah.
Okay. And that's so and so. I'm like, okay. It
Yeah.
didn't ring a bell to me. And then later on, I'm showing people like, yeah, he's out in California now. He's they call him Squadzilla or
yeah. I was gonna say Quadzilla. I think that's what his nickname was. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So I was like, oh my god. So
well, at least you lost to some big time guys.
I know that's kind of a cool story for me. Like I got those pictures. They're not great pictures. They were Polaroids back in the day.
Yeah.
My brother, my brother took me from way back when. Like I'm like, you could have got a little bit closer, got a little bit clearer.
Yeah. Right.
But it's a cool story to be able to tell people and say I was on stage with those guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
Got my ass kicked, but
that's okay. Could have got kicked by worse. That's for damn sure. Hey, well, listen. You've been a very interesting story. I really enjoyed the conversation about your journey. And listen, would you like to promote anything on our show that you're doing, or people can find you if you're doing any kind of online training or anything like that?
Sure. Like we have our World Championships coming up next week, 100% Raw World Powerlifting Championships. Actually, we're not doing powerlifting. We're doing single lift, so it's going to be bench only, deadlift only, and strict curl. We're doing that because with the squats, we don't want everybody touching with the squats with the corona and all going on. So if people want to tune in, they can go to our website, rawpowerlifting.com, or our Facebook page for 100% Raw Powerlifting Federation, and they can follow us there, and they can like us on there, and just kind of follow the federation. Also, to be honest, if there's anybody out there, I am looking for meet directors or state chairmen, Midwest and West. So we have one guy in Arizona, we have somebody in Nebraska, and we have nothing else after that.
Yeah.
West. We're very big on the east part. We're big in Canada. We actually got overseas. We got Ireland, Italy, Ukraine, Germany, India. I mean, but I'm looking for chairman. So if there's anybody out there that would like to be a chairman for our Powerlifting Federation, or just run, if they don't want to be the chairman, which it's really not much involved, they just give me a call, send me an email. You could Google my name, in Raw Powerlifting will come up, or if they can remember, rawpowerlifting@aol.com is my email. But go to 100% Raw's website, just rawpowerlifting.com is the website. You'll be able to find my email. As I said, worst comes to worst, if they can get it from you, I give you permission to give anybody my cell phone, give them my cell phone number, give them my email, give them my website. But but we are looking for a chairman. We are looking for people. Like, one of my biggest goals is, my biggest goals is to get the western part of the country. I want to get more chairmen. I want to get somebody in California, or 2 or 3 people in California, since it's a big state. I want to get somebody out, if I get somebody in New Mexico, I had somebody in New Mexico, I'd like to get somebody in New Mexico. If I get somebody in Nevada, I mean, I want to get states out there, Oregon, Washington State. So if there's any way that anybody listening that wants to be involved with 100% RAW Powerlifting Federation, where it's drug-free, we drug test, do the best we can with good old-fashioned lifting, no gear, suits required, please hit me up. Love to have it.
Nice. Hey, Paul, I tell you what, one of the things that I'm always that draws me to people is their level of passion and energy that they have for what they're doing. There's no question in my mind, you've got energy and you've got passion for what you do. That's very appealing, and I appreciate having you come on the show. If you want to come back on again after, if you got something that you want to promote or something coming on, feel free to reach out, and we'll do this again.
Yeah, cool. Excellent. Yeah, it's funny. I wasn't sure what you were going to ask me when you coming on here, but last year I was on Fox News because of a situation we had. And I don't know how much time you have, but I'll go over. You could probably Google it and see some of it. We actually had a transgender lifter that came in, but never told us. And then they had won all these awards, breaking women world records. And then, it happened so fast. Like, it happened on Saturday. On Sunday, they're sitting there flaunting all these world records. And then on Sunday night and Monday, my email's blowing up, and people were like so upset. It was like, if this thing blew up, it blew up nationally. I mean, I was literally on Fox with Laura Ingraham. On
nice.
Fox. Yeah, you can pull it up. But yeah, I'd love to get back in here with you, talk more with you, and explain, maybe after the Worlds, that'd be great.
Yeah. Let's do this again at some point. Reach out, and I have people do that, and we'll talk about that. And I know I kind of when I first started doing the podcast, and I used to send questions to the people, and now I just like to let it fly and see where it goes. And I think it's a little more authentic that way. And you're a great person to interview. So I'd like to have you on again sometime.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. This has been wonderful. I really appreciate it.
Right on, man. And good luck with everything that you're doing. Okay, Paul?
Thanks, Leo. Great
Okay,
to
talk
see
soon.
you.
Bye-bye.
Yep, bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to the Serious Growth Podcast. For more episodes like the one you just listened to, subscribe to us on your mobile podcast app and leave us a review. If you'd like to reach out, you can find us online at seriousgrowth.com. Until next time, train smart and train hard.